When the Americans won the Revolutionary War over England, they gained their independence. But if they were going to keep it, they had to establish a new form of government that would be acceptable to all the colonies, now called states. While George Washington was fighting the British in the Revolutionary War, the Second Continental Congress was working to form a central government. However, the Congress was stubbornly opposed by the state legislature, who were fearful of giving the central government too much power. If the nation was going to survive, the colonies would have to work together to create a strong central government. Understanding the following terms will help you get the most out of the program. The Continental Congress was a central governing body made up of representatives from each colony. Legislature is a group of people who have the power to make laws. A convention is a group meeting. The Articles of Confederation were America's first national constitution. They defined the powers of the new central government. Continental paper was worthless money printed by Congress in an attempt to fund the military during the Revolutionary War. Tyranny is a government ruled by a single powerful person. Parliament, a governing body of England and its colonies. Independence, a state of freedom and self-government. Rebellion, an armed outbreak against a government. Levy means to collect a tax or fee. A shilling is a British coin.
At Lexington and Concord, the Americans fought the British, and the Revolution began. Two months later, the Second Continental Congress voted to raise an army and elected George Washington, Commander-in-Chief. While Washington and his men were fighting the war, the Second Continental Congress, comprised of representatives from each colony, began to work toward a central government. They were stubbornly opposed, however, by the state legislatures.
I tell you, we don't want a strong central government. We certainly don't want a king.
But there has to be some central control because we are fighting a war.
Many people in America had come from countries that were ruled by a single powerful person. King George III of England was one example. A government that places all power in the hands of one person is called tyranny. In the United States today, power is balanced between three branches of government: the legislative branch, which makes the laws, the judicial branch, or courts, and the executive branch, which is the office of the president and other important departments.
The state legislatures were fearful of giving the central government the power to levy taxes. The memory of Parliament's misuse of such privileges was still bitterly fresh. Therefore, the legislatures refused to let the Continental Congress raise money to support the war. With no source of money, the new government was almost helpless. A desperate Congress started to print money. This was one of the first important lessons it learned. A government cannot create wealth by printing it on paper.
Morning, Mary.
A sack of flour, please.
Well, that'll be $10.
$10?
That's right.
For
Of course, if you'll pay in
sack of
coin
flour.
instead of continental paper,
Dear.
well, it'll still be only 2 shillings. That continental paper money is almost
Coins
worth
are so hard to come by.
Finally, the Continental Congress presented the states with a national constitution called the Articles of Confederation. The Articles defined the powers of the new national government. For example, it would be able to raise and maintain armies, settle disputes among the states, and have authority over postal services. But the state legislatures cautiously kept the powers of taxation for themselves.
Many colonial laws were adopted from British law. Before the settlement of the New World, the British people had fought for liberties that would protect them and their property. When people from England arrived in America, they brought the same spirit of justice and equality with them. Frontier life also created a spirit of equal opportunity for all. This atmosphere encouraged the creation of the representative government that we enjoy today.
Nearly everyone thinks the Articles give the central government too much power. There's one place, though, where the central government should have power, and that's over our western lands. Why, some of the states are even naming the Pacific Ocean their western boundary.
Since Virginia was the first colony to be established in the New World, she claimed most of the Mississippi Valley. States without western land claims, like Maryland, Rhode Island, and Delaware, would not approve the Articles of Confederation until the question of land claims was settled. These small states were sure that the states with western lands would become wealthy, while they would not. Virginia finally agreed to give her territory to the central government. At last, in March of 1781, the Articles of Confederation were approved. The Second Continental Congress then became the central or federal government of the new nation.
Federal refers to the type of government that is formed when a central power and other smaller groups, such as state legislatures, make an agreement as to how their interrelationship will work. The U.S. federal government is based on trust between the different branches of power. Each branch must trust the other with a certain amount of power, while making sure that no one branch becomes too great.
Only 7 months later, General Washington and his French allies defeated Cornwallis at Yorktown. The war was practically won.
Yes, it is good to have peace and freedom and to be able to enjoy life again. Well, the Congress has opened up the Western Territory for settlement. Many of Washington's former soldiers are traveling west to take advantage of these lands. I hear some people, like Daniel Boone, are pushing into the wilderness. They're making maps and trails for the settlers to follow.
Daniel Boone was one of the greatest American pioneers. As a boy in Pennsylvania, he met the local Indians in the forest and learned their culture. He used to study the habits of wild things and hunt them with his hand-carved spear. When he was 12, his father gave him a rifle, and his career as a hunter began. He understood the rough North American terrain and established a route westward known as the Wilderness Road. This road was used by families that moved west for many years afterward. It was a 500-kilometer route from eastern Virginia through the Cumberland Gap and into Kentucky. Later in his life, he explored the Missouri region. As his canoe passed Cincinnati, somebody asked why he was leaving Kentucky. Too crowded was his answer. He lived in Missouri the rest of his life.
Did you know that Congress is going to sell land in New York, Kentucky, and Tennessee? They're going to raise money to run the government.
Yes, sir, America is making progress. There's a feeling that while we used to be Englishmen, we now have a future greater than England's. We like our independence. We can own as much land as we want. We can speak our mind on politics and worship God as we please.
Rock of ages, let for me, let me hide myself in thee, let the wonder and the blood from thy wounded side which flowed be of sin the double cure. Save from wrath and make me pure.
Although most Americans were enjoying their new freedom, some people were worried about the future. The states quarreled among themselves. The states refused to give Congress the power to govern the nation. This continuing weakness in the central government troubled many revolutionary heroes like George Washington and Alexander Hamilton. They knew that greatness could never come to a country controlled by 13 individual states.
The state governments are getting farther apart all the time and just ignoring the central government. Sometimes they don't bother to send anyone to the Continental Congress at all.
I don't blame them. It's not a good idea to let the government down in Philadelphia get too strong. Remember England and taxes.
Yeah, that's right. But we need some kind of government to protect the rights we fought for.
I'm Daniel Shays from up 3 corner ways. I say no government can tell us what to do or tax us or take our property.
Shays and his men, in open rebellion against their state government, closed the courts of Massachusetts in 3 counties. The federal government was helpless. It had no authority to assist Massachusetts in maintaining law and order.
The main cause of Shays' rebellion was the high taxes that were being collected from Massachusetts farmers. Many farmers could not afford the taxes and as a result lost their homes and farms. Daniel Shays, who had fought in the Revolutionary War, was not a farmer, but he had great sympathy for the people who were losing their homes. He took on the role of leading the rebellion, which was later named after him.
The way things are going with Shays' rebellion, we've got no government at all. No soldiers, no money, no power.
Some are even talking of making George Washington our king, or joining England again.
This never happened when England was in control.
That's right. At least we had law and order. Maybe Shays has the right idea. Each state for itself.
You mean each man for himself?
No, we need some kind of government, but Shays isn't the answer.
Mark my word. If Congress falls apart this time, England or Spain is waiting to pick up the pieces.
These state representatives have got to do something.
We'll see.
Responsible leaders throughout the United States began to realize that the nation would not survive if the central government did not achieve strength soon. Virginia took the lead in an attempt to give the federal government more strength and proposed an interstate convention. A convention of 5 states met at Annapolis, Maryland in September 1786.
New York?
Present.
New Jersey?
Present.
Pennsylvania?
Present.
Delaware?
Present.
Virginia?
Here.
Mr. Chairman, our separate states joined forces to win the war with England. I say we must do it again. We must work together to create a sound national government so we can continue to work together as a nation in the years to come.
Alexander Hamilton favored a strong national government. He urged a meeting of all the American states. He proposed a general convention in Philadelphia the following year.
It will not be a convention to discuss the operation of the present weak Articles of Confederation, but to create a true constitution for a strong federal government to save our new nation.
This was the beginning of a political process that led to the formation of a strong central government for the new nation. Problems like Shays' Rebellion showed how powerless the central government was. The stage was set for a constitutional convention to draw up a new constitution to form the United States of America. Here's a list of the original 13 colonies that fought the Revolutionary War: Connecticut, Delaware, Georgia, Maryland, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, New Jersey, New York, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, South Carolina, and Virginia. Here are some questions for you to think about and discuss. Why did Alexander Hamilton believe that the Articles of Confederation were too weak? Why were the state legislatures afraid that a central government would become too powerful? What was the result of Shays' Rebellion against the government of Massachusetts? The ideas that our founding fathers believed in are still at work every day. How do you think these ideas affect our everyday lives today?